So compositing takes place in the IMG area here. It should have one there by default. If not, make one. Go over here to our composite view. Oop, what's all this? Strange. Well, let's just make a new thing. Hopefully yours doesn't look like that, but there we go. Mine is coming pre-populated with my image for some reason. Probably because I already tried recording this chapter and had to restart. But for you, click on Job, and then remember we put it in the render directory, and then mantra beauty, and there it is. So of course, just like our image viewer, we have it here. Now, if we want to modify the individual layers, we need to first copy that layer into the color channel. We've done this before in previous lessons, so just kind of blow through it quickly now. Channel copy. We'll need one of these per image plane, where we say the target is going to be the color, which is the things that get modified. So it's just temporarily going into color. And we're going to source it from, let's say, here's the sun direct. So I can copy and paste that, do the volume inner direct, copy and paste that, do the middle direct, copy and paste that, do the particles direct, and finally, of course, the emission. So there you go. Now I don't want to see them all at once. I'm just going to put the display back onto one of these. But the point is that now in each one of these different streams here, we can do something. And then once we're done, we can layer them all back together again. I'm going to use literally a layer here set to add. So we'll add the different color values to each other. And that really should just get us the original image again. So I'm going to shift click this one, and they seem to be the same. Alternatively, we could just click on that. It seems to be exactly the same. So now we also need to make sure that the alpha is the same, which it's not. Look at the original, look at this one, because it's adding the alphas all on top of each other too. So for this layer add operation, tell it to not do it for alpha. So turn that plane scope off for alpha. So now the alpha is also the same, in addition to the color being the same. So what might we change here? I think I said in the last chapter we might take the particle one. So let's do a color correct on the particles stream here. And I'm going to look at the end result while we do it. And say color correct, let's multiply those particles up. So you can see, even though it was a pretty grainy pass, I don't really see too much of that grain showing up here. But I am just going to make it be twice as bright. There you go. So now we can see those particles better without having to re-render the whole thing. I'd also like to add some bloom, meaning just some like light bleed around the brightest areas. Mostly this wizard area here. So what could be fun to do is take the brightest areas here already we have in this emission thing. Let's isolate the brightest areas by first desaturating it. This part I want to do. You don't necessarily have to do that, but then you'll definitely need to do a levels. Levels will help us kind of threshold, kind of squelch out the stuff that's too dark. So we went from this to this. So again, isolating the brighter areas. And then here, I can see these are now negative numbers. I don't want that. So let's use a limit. A limit will it's like a clamp. It's just called limit in cops. So it's now 0 to 1. So if I look at them, those values that were negative are now 0. And the brightest area is now just 1. We could maybe not have an upper limit, but I'm just going to keep it like this. And then finally, let's blur it. This is the point here. The point is to make some sequence of increasingly blurrier versions of this. Again, we did this also in the last lesson because this kind of bloom kind of haziness is a pretty common thing that we do. So here we'll do the add again. And similarly, Well, we actually don't need to do it yet, but so there we go. So there's our add effect. Let's actually add it to here. Let's see. Let's use an add, which again is more or less just same as a layer. So I'm going to add that on top of this. Same kind of thing. I don't want to add to the alpha. I just want to add to the bloom here, and now we can just dial it in. Or I guess I could reverse it. Let me put this here and this here. So now we can dial the effect in as much as we want. Isn't that cool? We only really want a little bit of it probably, so I'm just going to do 0.1. Yeah, so we had just made our own little bloom thing. You could wrap this up into your own HDA tool thing too. This is a kind of a common setup that gets used a lot. And you probably don't want to make all those nodes every single time. But anyway, yeah, so you scrub around. We want to make sure the effect works on the other frames, and it seems to. Of course it does. We'll just render the whole thing out anyway. And finally, we want to put the ground in. So let's go. I made a layer. I'm going to get another file, SOP. Go get the ground here. Look at it. And say basically A over B. No, I guess it was the other way. I always get them mixed up. There we go. And so now we just plopped this based on its alpha on top of this. We're not using an add this time. We're using the default over. And that's it. So same thing, if we wanted to tweak the background one, we could do the same thing with the channel copies and whatnot. We could make it darker. I mean, we could even maybe just put a levels on here and not bother with all of the underlying planes. But so, you could do that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to, but you get it. So that's it. So now all that remains is to write it out. So put a ROP file output. Wait, that's not it. I'll try again. ROP file output. There it is. Oh, I guess it was it. And put it somewhere cool. I'm going to say in our job, we'll make a comp directory. And I'll say final version 0 frame EXR. And this should take no time at all to run. While I wait, I'm going to make a new image viewer. I'll just wait for it. See you in a second.